Have you ever felt it? That quiet, creeping exhaustion at the end of a long day? A day where you did everything yet accomplished nothing. A day where you were pulled in 100 different directions. A human compass spinning wildly, pointing everywhere and therefore nowhere at all. They sell you a beautiful, comforting idea. They wrap it in glossy magazine covers and whisper it in self-help seminars. They call it balance. They tell you that the secret to a happy life is to perfectly juggle your work and your home, to meticulously portion out your energy between your ambitions and your rest, to give every single plate a gentle, steady spin so that none of them come crashing down. It's a lovely thought, isn't it? A life of perfect equilibrium. But I am here to tell you that this seductive promise is one of the most profound and paralyzing lies ever told. Balance, in the way the world preaches it, doesn't forge greatness. It doesn't carve out legacies or build empires. Balance manufactures mediocrity. It is the silent killer of dreams, spreading your magnificent, potent energy so thin across so many different surfaces that it loses all its heat, all its power to burn, to create, to transform. Balance makes you average. And I do not believe for 1 second that you were put on this earth to be average. When you attempt to grant everything in your life equal footing, you inadvertently guarantee that nothing receives the fierce, undivided, passionate attention it needs to flourish. A little bit of your focus goes to your career, a little bit to your health, a little bit to your relationships, a little bit to that forgotten dream gathering dust on a shelf in your soul. And what is the final accounting of a life lived in these tiny measured spoonfuls? You find yourself perpetually busy, your calendar choked with obligations, but you are not effective. You are in motion, but you are making no progress. Life, my friend, is not a gentle scale to be balanced. It is a mighty river, and it rewards the force of a concentrated current, not the placid stillness of a scattered pond. It rewards the soul who plants their flag in the ground and declares with every fiber of their being, "This is my mountain, this is where my heart is committed. This is the ground that is worthy of the very best of my fire, my sweat, and my spirit." I have sat across from countless individuals who wore their balance like a badge of honor. Their lives were a whirlwind of activity. A dozen half-started projects cluttering their desks, a phone buzzing with endless notifications from a dozen different apps, a mind cluttered with a dozen different anxieties. They would tell me with a weary smile that they were managing it all. But if you truly looked past the frantic motion, you would see the truth. They weren't mastering anything. They were merely surviving everything. They were drowning in the shallow end of a dozen different pools instead of learning to swim in the deep end of one. That is not balance. That is dilution. That is a life lived by inches when it was meant to be lived by miles. Now hold that image in your mind and contrast it with a different kind of person, the person who understands the sacred power of focus. This individual doesn't try to conquer the world all at once. Instead, they have the wisdom and the courage to choose. They identify the vital few, the handful of priorities that truly echo in the chambers of their soul, and they pour themselves into those things with an unwavering, relentless devotion. They give them their best hours, their sharpest thoughts, their most resilient energy. And what happens? The results are not just better, they are of a different magnitude entirely. They become masters of their craft, not just practitioners. They build fortunes that last for generations, not just pay the monthly bills. They forge relationships that are deep, resilient, and true, not just a network of casual acquaintances. And they achieve this, not by doing more, but by committing to less. They didn't try to be everything to everyone. They chose to be extraordinary in the arenas that mattered most. And here, in this commitment, lies a beautiful and profound paradox. The moment you stop chasing balance, it starts to find you. True balance is not the cause of success. It is the consequence of focused effort. When you pour your energy into becoming a master in your field, the financial rewards create freedom and stability that spills over, nourishing your family life. When you focus intensely on restoring your physical health, you are gifted with a tidal wave of new energy and mental clarity that revitalizes your career and your relationships. The concentrated force you apply in one critical area creates a powerful updraft that lifts every other part of your life along with it. The old idea of balance does the exact opposite. It demands you divide your resources so evenly that every single one of your dreams is left perpetually hungry, perpetually undernourished, perpetually gasping for just a little bit more. So let the message be carved into your mind. You are not in need of more balance. You are in need of a sharper, deeper, more powerful focus. You do not need to stretch yourself into a state of transparent fragility. You need to concentrate your power into a force so dense it can break through any barrier. You were not born to chase 1,000 fleeting shadows. You were born to commit to the sacred few things that give your life weight, substance, and meaning. For in the final ledger of your days, life will not reward you for how perfectly you juggled. It will reward you for how passionately you focused. Balance has been elevated to the status of a holy grail in our modern culture. It's presented as the ultimate destination, the cure-all for the anxieties of a frantic world. People speak of it with a longing reverence, as if achieving this perfect equilibrium between their work life and their home life, their personal goals and their need for rest, their duties and their passions, would finally unlock the door to a perfect existence. On the surface, it sounds so logical, so deeply desirable. But the relentless pursuit of this phantom often leads to the very state of being it promises to avoid. Instead of a life brimming with fulfillment, the chase for balance so often ends in a quiet, gnawing frustration. Instead of landmark achievements, it produces a landscape of polite, respectable mediocrity. And there is a fundamental reason for this. The very concept of balance is built on a flawed premise. The idea that you can and should give equal weight and equal energy to all the components of your life, but you cannot. Your time is a finite currency. Your energy is a precious, depletable resource. When you attempt to spread these treasures evenly across too many ventures, you ensure that no single one of them ever receives the full blazing force of your potential. You never build true mastery, because mastery requires deep, prolonged immersion. You never create unstoppable momentum, because momentum is born from concentrated, consistent pressure. You never achieve the kind of breakthrough results that redefine your reality, because breakthroughs happen at the point of maximum focus. You condemn yourself to forever wading in the shallow waters of many pursuits, never knowing the exhilarating feeling of diving into the profound depths of one. And life, in its beautiful and brutal honesty, does not hand its greatest prizes to the dabblers. It reserves them for the devoted. I have witnessed good, hard-working people chase this ideal of balance with the ferocity of a hunter. Their lives were governed by impossibly complex to-do lists, with their days segmented into tiny parcels of time for 24 different life categories. They were attempting, with admirable sincerity, to give each and every piece of their life a perfectly equal slice of their attention. And what was the outcome of this grand experiment in equilibrium? They were perpetually busy, yet never truly effective. They were constantly tired, yet never genuinely accomplished. On paper, their lives looked perfectly balanced. In reality, they were stretched so tautly across so many different anchor points that they had no slack left to actually move forward in any meaningful direction. Nothing of substance ever truly changed. In this way, the pursuit of balance often morphs into a sophisticated excuse. It becomes a shield. People will say, well, I don't want to focus too much on my business. I need to maintain my balance. Or I can't go all in on my health right now. My life needs to stay balanced. But listen closely to the words behind the words. What they are often truly saying is, I'm afraid to commit. I'm afraid to go all in and risk failure. I'm afraid to choose one path and pour my entire soul into it. Balance can become the comfortable, socially applauded hiding place for a fear of commitment. It allows one to avoid the terrifying vulnerability of declaring what truly matters most. But in shielding you from the risk, it simultaneously robs you of the reward. Picture a farmer standing before a vast expanse of land. He has a small bag of his very best seeds. The doctrine of balance would tell him to walk across every single acre of his property, scattering a few precious seeds here, a few precious seeds there. He gives no single plot of land his full attention, his best soil preparation, or his most dedicated watering. What will his harvest be? He might get a few weak stalks from this field, a handful of underdeveloped crops from that one, but nowhere will he find a harvest of true abundance. He will have a little of everything, but not enough of anything to truly thrive. Now imagine a different farmer. This farmer studies his land. He finds the single richest, most fertile patch of soil he owns. He pours all his resources, all his energy, and all his care into that one chosen plot. He cultivates it deeply, waters it faithfully, and protects it fiercely. What will his harvest be? It will be magnificent. It will be more than enough. The philosophy of balance says, plant a little everywhere. The philosophy of focus says, plant your best where it will matter most. And that, my friend, is the choice that makes all the difference in the world. This is not a call to neglect everything else in your life. It is a call to recognize a fundamental truth. Not all things are created equal. Some parts of your life matter infinitely more than others. Some pursuits deserve the full, unbridled force of your spirit, while others can be managed with a fraction of your attention. Balance whispers the lie that everything should be treated as equal. Focus thunders the truth that your priorities must be fiercely, unapologetically unequal. That is how you should live. So the great myth of balance is this: if you divide yourself evenly, you will live a better life. But the profound truth is, when you divide yourself evenly, you only weaken yourself. The secret to a powerful life is not to divide, but to direct, to aim the full force of your being at a worthy target. For it is focus that forges mastery. It is focus that builds success. It is focus that creates a life of substance, meaning, and magnificent achievement. Once you have pierced through the illusion and accepted that the pursuit of balance is a trap that dilutes your power, the next question rises naturally and urgently from the silence. What is the alternative? If balance scatters you, what is the force that will gather you? If balance weakens you, what is the principle that will multiply you? The answer is a single, powerful word: focus. Focus is one of the most potent, reality-altering forces you can ever hope to harness in your life. The moment you begin to consciously concentrate your finite reserves of time, your precious emotional energy, and your hard-earned resources onto the small handful of things that matter most, a seismic shift occurs. Everything changes. The results you've been chasing for years suddenly begin to appear, and they come faster than you ever thought possible. The path forward, once a confusing and overgrown thicket, becomes clear and unmistakable. Your life finally begins to move with a sense of purpose, a feeling of deliberate forward momentum that is both thrilling and deeply calming. And this transformation doesn't happen because you suddenly started working 10 times harder. It happens because you started working 10 times smarter, with the clarifying, amplifying power of a focused mind. Think for a moment about a simple magnifying glass. The sun bathes the entire planet in its light every single day. That light is powerful. It gives life, but spread out over such a vast area, its energy is warm and gentle. It doesn't spontaneously set anything ablaze. The energy is diffuse, harmless. Now, take that very same sunlight, that same source of energy, and pass it through the carefully crafted curve of a magnifying glass. Concentrate all of those scattered rays into a single, tiny, brilliant point of light. What happens? That gentle warmth is transformed into an intense, searing heat. It can burn through paper, scorch wood, and start a fire. The energy itself did not change. The source of the power remained the same. The only thing that changed was the focus. Your life operates under this very same law. Your energy, your time, your unique talents and abilities, they are like that sunlight. Spread them thinly across a dozen different pursuits, and they will create a gentle, pleasant warmth, but they will never start a fire. But concentrate them, focus them with intense, unwavering precision onto a single worthy objective, and you become a force of nature. You generate the power to burn through obstacles, to ignite new possibilities, and to create real, tangible, lasting change. This immutable truth plays itself out in the lives of men and women time and time again. I recall a young man who spent the better part of a decade of his life simply dabbling. He would try a little of this business idea, then a little of that artistic pursuit. He learned a little bit of a new language, then took a few classes on a different skill. His life was full, his days were busy, and by all conventional measures he was perfectly balanced. But he was gaining no real traction. He was a ship with a dozen different rudders, all pointing in different directions, spinning in circles in the middle of a vast ocean. Then, one day, something shifted inside him. He grew tired of the motion without progress. He made a decision. He decided to focus. He surveyed the landscape of his many interests, chose the one that called to him most deeply, and he committed himself to it with the totality of his being. Suddenly, miraculously, everything changed. His results didn't just improve, they multiplied exponentially. Within a single year of concentrated effort, he accomplished more in that one chosen field than he had in the previous 10 years of scattered, balanced activity. It was not magic. It was the simple, profound power of focus. Focus creates an unstoppable momentum. The more you pour your undivided attention into something, the more it begins to grow and expand. It's a law of nature. You simply cannot give everything equal attention, so stop trying. But you can give extraordinary, breathtaking, world-changing attention to the things that matter most. And when you do, the results begin to compound. Success in one core area begins to bleed into all the others, strengthening them in unexpected ways. When you finally achieve mastery over your finances and build a fortress of security, you'll discover that the chronic stress that once poisoned your most important relationships has vanished, leaving space for patience and connection. When you dedicate yourself with fierce focus to rebuilding your health, you'll find you have a reservoir of energy and vitality that you can then pour into the pursuit of your career ambitions. Focus in one area multiplies its benefits across every other part of your life. The great achievers of history stand as towering testaments to this principle. They were not balanced individuals. They were magnificently, gloriously, and sometimes obsessively focused. The inventor who pours decades of their life into a single revolutionary vision. The athlete who dedicates countless years of grueling training to mastering one sport. The entrepreneur who commits their entire being to dominating one industry. Their legendary results were never accidental. They were not the product of a scattered, balanced approach. They were the direct, inevitable consequence of a deeply concentrated focus. And here is the essential key to understanding this. Focus does not mean you must neglect everything else. It simply means you must ruthlessly prioritize what matters most. It is the sacred discipline of looking at the vast array of options before you and declaring, this one thing deserves the absolute best of my energy right now. And when you make that declaration and live by it, progress ceases to be a struggle. It becomes inevitable. The siren call of distractions loses its seductive pull. The whispered excuses of your own mind lose their power. And the results you generate begin to build upon each other day after day, creating a tidal wave of momentum. That is the multiplying power of focus. It transforms your effort. It builds your momentum. It forges your mastery. Balance will forever divide you, but focus will always, always direct you, and a directed force will always defeat a scattered one, every single time. So the next question becomes the most critical of all. If the secret lies in focus, how do you decide what is truly worthy of that sacred, concentrated energy? Because not everything qualifies. Not every task, not every project, not every relationship, and not every opportunity deserves the full blazing intensity of your attention. This is one of the most difficult and yet most liberating lessons a person can ever learn. The moment you truly internalize the fact that not everything in your life is of equal importance, you are finally free. You are free to stop scattering your precious energy like cheap confetti, and you can begin to invest it with the wisdom of a master, only where it will yield the greatest returns. The vast majority of people drift through their lives, majoring in minor things. They pour countless hours of their irreplaceable time into the flickering abyss of distractions. They squander entire days on trivial pursuits that feel urgent but are ultimately meaningless. They waste years of their potential on activities that will not move them 1 inch closer to the life they dream of living. They invest their potent emotional energy into pointless arguments, into the toxic churn of gossip, into the passive consumption of mindless entertainment, or into the endless churn of busy work. All those little tasks that make you feel productive but produce nothing of value. And then, at the end of the day, or the week, or the decade, they look around in a state of bewilderment and wonder why their lives haven't changed. The answer is painfully simple. They gave the best of themselves to the worst of things. The true secret to an extraordinary life is to correctly identify which pursuits deserve the full force of your focus. You must ask yourself a hard, honest question. What few areas of my life, if I invested in them deeply, passionately, and consistently, would create the most profound and positive transformation in my reality? For most of us, when we are truly honest, the list is remarkably short. Your health deserves this focus, because without the foundation of a strong and vital body, every other ambition you have will eventually crumble to dust. Your finances deserve this focus, because without the power and freedom that resources provide, the doors to your grandest opportunities will remain locked and barred. Your key relationships deserve this focus, because a life filled with achievement but devoid of deep, meaningful human connection is the loneliest, most hollow victory of all. Your personal growth deserves this focus, because you can never rise above the limitations of your own skills, your own character, and your own understanding. These few monumental areas are the majors. They matter. They are the pillars that hold up the entire structure of your life, and they are worthy of the very best you have to give. A young man once came to me, his eyes clouded with a deep and palpable exhaustion. He was, by his own admission, trying to do everything at once. He was attempting to learn 3 new languages simultaneously while launching multiple small side businesses and volunteering for every community project that came his way, all on top of working a demanding full-time job. On the surface, his ambition was impressive. He looked like a model of productivity. But when I asked him what real, tangible progress he was making in any single one of those areas, his shoulders slumped and he confessed the truth. He was stuck. Nothing was truly moving forward. He was a hamster on a very impressive multicolored wheel, spinning furiously, but never advancing. He was busy, but he was not building. The advice I offered him was painfully simple. Pick one, just one. Focus on the one single endeavor that matters most to you right now, and have the courage to put all the others aside for a time. Once you have achieved true mastery and momentum in that one area, you will be in a position of strength from which you can expand. He took the advice to heart, and when he did, his entire life changed with breathtaking speed. Within a single year, he was excelling in the one field where before he had only been dabbling in many. Choosing what deserves your focus demands a radical honesty with yourself. You have to be willing to look at every activity on your calendar, every project on your plate, and ask the tough questions. Is this a major or is this a minor? Is this task truly important to my long-term vision, or is it just convenient and comfortable right now? Is this activity moving me measurably closer to my most cherished goals, or is it just a clever way to fill the time and avoid the real, difficult work? These are the questions that cut like a surgeon's scalpel through the noise and the clutter. They help you to see, with piercing clarity, where your life's energy must be directed. Because the ultimate truth is this: if you believe everything is important, then nothing is important. You must have the courage to decide. And here is the wonderfully liberating news. The moment you consciously choose your primary areas of focus, you unshackle yourself from the crushing weight of guilt about everything else. You no longer have to do everything. You no longer have to be everywhere. You no longer have to try and balance it all in some impossible, superhuman feat of juggling. You only need to do one thing. Give the absolute best of yourself to the vital few things that truly, deeply matter. And that, my friend, is where the architecture of a great life begins. So let the myth of balance fade into the background. Once you grasp this powerful principle, you will understand not everything deserves your energy. Choose your majors wisely. Set aside the minors with ruthless grace, and pour the full, concentrated power of your being where it will count the most. That single decision made today can alter the entire trajectory of your life. But be warned, Once you have chosen what deserves your focus, another, even greater challenge immediately presents itself. You must learn to guard it with your life, because the world is filled with forces, distractions, interruptions, and your own internal excuses that will constantly fight to pull you away. That is the next great battle. A focus, once chosen, must be fiercely and relentlessly defended. The very instant you make the courageous decision to focus on what matters most, you must understand that the world will immediately conspire to pull you away from it. It is an immutable law. Distractions will begin to knock on your door, disguised as urgent opportunities. Interruptions will sneak into your day, wearing the faces of people you know. Your own internal excuses will whisper seductive lies in your ear, promising comfort and ease if you would only abandon your difficult path. And if you do not stand guard over your focus with the vigilance of a soldier protecting a fortress, all the progress you have worked so hard to create can slip right through your fingers like fine sand. One of the greatest and most insidious enemies of focus in our modern age is the relentless onslaught of distraction. We live in a world that is engineered for noise. The constant ping of your phone, the endless cascade of emails in your inbox, the infinite scroll of entertainment designed to capture and hold your attention. It is a perpetual battle. And here is the treacherous nature of the problem. Most of these distractions feel urgent, but they are almost never important. They scream for your attention, but they do not deserve it. You must burn this truth into your mind. Every single time you say yes to a fleeting distraction, you are simultaneously saying no to your own most profound priorities. Protecting your focus means guarding the gateway of your attention with a ferocious intensity. Another immense challenge comes in the form of interruptions from other people. Well-meaning individuals will always want a piece of your time, a sliver of your energy. They will arrive at your door with their emergencies, their agendas, their brilliant plans, and their interesting projects. And if you are not exceptionally careful, you will find that you have spent your entire day and then your entire life living out someone else's agenda instead of your own. Guarding your focus demands the courage to establish and enforce strong boundaries. It means learning to say the powerful, liberating word no when something does not align with your chosen priorities. It means carving out sacred, untouchable blocks of time in your day that belong only to you and your most important work, and then protecting that time as if it were the most priceless treasure you own, because it is. Practical strategies can become your greatest allies in this fight. Radically simplify your routines. Conduct a ruthless audit of your commitments and eliminate anything that does not actively serve your primary goals. Remove the physical and digital clutter from your schedule, from your environment, and yes, even from your relationships if necessary. Every single unnecessary thing you strip away from your life creates precious, empty space. And it is in that quiet, uncluttered space that true focus can finally thrive. I once knew a man who worked with a tireless, almost frantic energy, yet he was perpetually behind schedule. Every single day felt like a frantic race where he was being pulled in a dozen different directions at once. He felt scattered, overwhelmed, and ineffective. When he finally took the time to meticulously track how he spent his hours, he made a shocking discovery. The vast majority of his time was being consumed by distractions, attending meetings that had no clear purpose, answering emails that didn't move the needle on his projects, and engaging in long, draining conversations that led nowhere. Once he began to systematically cut those things away, he freed up hours of high-quality time each and every week. He didn't add more effort to his day. He simply removed the parasitic distractions that were stealing his energy. And almost overnight, his productivity didn't just increase, it multiplied. That is the astonishing power of guarding your focus. The environment you inhabit also plays a monumental role. If your workspace and your home are filled with triggers for distraction, you will spend your entire life fighting an uphill battle for focus. But if you intentionally design an environment that supports and reinforces your priorities, the need for superhuman discipline becomes far less. Place powerful, visible reminders of your goals where you will see them every single day. Ruthlessly remove the sources of temptation from your immediate workspace. Surround yourself with people who respect your commitment to focus, instead of those who constantly seek to undermine it. When your environment begins to work for you instead of against you, the act of guarding your focus starts to feel natural, almost effortless. Here is the unvarnished truth. Focus is not a one-time decision you make. It is a daily commitment you renew. Every single day, a fresh army of distractions and excuses will march to your gates and attempt to steal it from you. And every single day, you must be prepared to stand your ground and defend it. But the payoff for this daily vigilance is immeasurable. Guard your focus, and your life will begin to compound in the right direction. Lose your focus, and you will inevitably drift back into the fog of busyness, balance, and mediocrity. So make the choice, and make it every morning. Protect your focus at all costs. Say no more often than you say yes. Remove what does not matter to make room for what does. Build an environment that serves as a fortress for your ambitions. And always remember, the quality of your life will ultimately reflect the quality of what you chose to guard most. Now, once you have mastered the art of protecting your focus, the next step is to witness what it creates, because a life that is lived with sustained, unwavering focus doesn't just produce external results. It produces an internal world of clarity, peace, and deep fulfillment that the frantic pursuit of balance alone could never, ever offer. Living a life defined by focus is about something so much deeper than simply producing a list of impressive results. It is about the deliberate creation of a life filled with clarity, imbued with purpose, and overflowing with a profound sense of fulfillment. When you have the courage to choose focus over the myth of balance, you cease the frantic, exhausting act of scattering yourself in every conceivable direction. You stop pouring your precious life force into things that, in the final analysis, simply do not matter. You begin, perhaps for the first time, to live with powerful intention. And intention is a force of nature. It is the invisible architect that transforms ordinary days into meaningful ones. It turns mundane actions into the essential building blocks of an extraordinary life. The philosophy of balance tells you to divide yourself equally among all your competing interests, but this only leaves you feeling stretched, thin, and perpetually tired. The philosophy of focus instructs you to give the right things the right weight, and that is the crucial distinction. Not equal weight, but the right weight. Some things in your life deserve the lion's share of your heart and your energy. Others deserve very little, or perhaps nothing at all. A focused life does not mean a life of neglect. It means a life of intelligent order. It means you have established a clear hierarchy of priorities. It means you have finally given yourself permission to stop trying to do everything so that you can begin the sacred work of doing the few things that matter most and doing them with a level of excellence that will astound you. Think again of that wise farmer. If he scatters his best seeds thinly across every acre he owns, giving a little bit of his attention here and a little bit there, his harvest will be meager everywhere. He will have a little of this and a little of that, but an abundance of nothing. But if he has the wisdom to choose his single most fertile piece of ground, and he works that ground deeply, nurturing it with all of his care and dedication, his harvest will be a magnificent, overflowing abundance. That is the perfect picture of a focused life. You learn to invest your energy where the return is greatest. And the return you receive from a life of focus isn't just measured in achievements or wealth. It is measured in peace. You finally stop the incessant worrying about all the things you are not doing because you have the deep, quiet confidence of knowing that what you are doing is what matters most. Here is the beautiful, compounding magic of it all. A focused life creates its own unstoppable momentum. When you pour your energy day after day into the right places, your progress begins to build on itself. Your health doesn't just improve, it steadily transforms, giving you more vitality each year. Your finances don't just grow, they compound, creating a foundation of security and freedom. Your relationships don't just endure, they deepen, becoming sources of immense strength and joy. Your skills don't just develop, they expand into true mastery. Each area that you choose to focus on strengthens the very foundation of your existence. And as that foundation grows stronger and more solid, it begins to lift everything else in your life. You finally find yourself standing on the solid ground of purpose instead of the scattered, shifting sands of distraction. I have met so many people who were living these scattered, so-called balanced lives. They were in a state of constant exhaustion, always feeling behind, perpetually wondering why they weren't further along on their journey. But when they made the profound shift from a mindset of balance to a mindset of focus, when they chose their true priorities and began to ruthlessly cut away the distractions, the transformation was nothing short of dramatic. They consistently accomplished more in a single year of deep focus than they had in the previous 10 years of frantic balance. And along with these tangible results came something they never expected, a deep and abiding peace of mind. No more guilt for not doing everything. No more chronic stress from an endless juggling act. Just the simple, powerful clarity of direction and the satisfying feeling of real measurable growth. The focused life is a life lived by design, not by default. It is a life that declares, I know what matters to me. I know what is worthy of my energy, and I will give it the absolute best I have to give. It is never accidental. It is never scattered, and it is most certainly not balanced in the way most people think of that word. It is stronger than that. It is sharper than that. It is deliberate. And because of this, it produces a quality of life and a depth of results that balance never could. So remember this always. Balance spreads you thin, but focus makes you strong. Balance keeps you average, but focus makes you exceptional. Balance may look good on paper, but focus builds a life that is truly worth living. And once you commit to living with focus, you will find that true fulfillment isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things with every ounce of your being. So before our time together ends, allow me to leave you with one final, unmistakable reminder. You do not need more balance. What your soul is crying out for is more focus. Balance has been the celebrated word on everyone's lips for years, a comforting mantra for a chaotic world. But comfort is not what forges greatness. Balance is not the engine of progress. It is the anchor of mediocrity. Balance divides your power, but focus multiplies it. Balance stretches you until you are thin and fragile, but focus concentrates you until you are strong and unbreakable. Balance will always keep you safely in the realm of the average, but it is focus, and only focus, that will help you excel and touch the realm of the extraordinary. The lesson, then, is as clear as a ringing bell in a silent dawn. If you truly desire results in your life, if you truly crave a deep and lasting fulfillment, you must abandon the chase for balance and begin the sacred practice of focus. What, then, is the ultimate takeaway from all of this? It is breathtakingly simple. Stop trying to do it all. Stop dividing yourself into 1,000 tiny, ineffective pieces in a misguided attempt to give everything your attention, because in doing so, you give nothing your best. Instead, you must choose. You must have the courage to select the vital few things that truly matter. Choose your health, for it is the vessel of your life. Choose your finances, for they are the tools of your freedom. Choose your most precious relationships, for they are the heart of your existence. Choose your personal growth, for it is the path to your highest self. And then, once you have chosen, you must focus. Give those sacred areas your best and sharpest attention. Pour your most potent energy into them. Dedicate your most disciplined effort to their cultivation. And when you do this day after day, you will find that the results will begin to speak for themselves in a voice far louder and more convincing than my own. Life does not reward the one who juggles a dozen balls with mediocre skill. It reserves its greatest rewards for the one who chooses to master a few and commits their entire being to that mastery. That is where real, tangible progress is made. That is where a deep and unshakable fulfillment is found. And that is where the magnificent future you envision is built, brick by deliberate brick. So here is my final challenge to you. Do not chase the phantom of balance. Chase the power of focus. Do not scatter your precious energy. Direct it with the precision of a laser beam. Do not major in minor things. Have the wisdom to major in the majors. Choose your path wisely, focus on it deeply, and then watch in awe as your life begins to transform. Not because you finally learned how to balance it all, but because you finally had the courage, the clarity, and the conviction to focus on what really truly matters. Because at the end of all your days, balance may look good on a spreadsheet, but it is focus that builds the life your soul was born to live. And once you understand that profound truth, you will never, ever settle for balance again.